Welcome back as we go back through the book of Jonah. So we're going to pick up with chapter 3 today, where Jonah is now in Nineveh. So just a real brief recap of where we've been. So God has told Jonah to go to Nineveh. Jonah goes the exact opposite direction. So he goes to the sea, gets on a boat to Tarshish, which is the end of the world as they know it. And God sends the storm. The sailors do everything they can to save Jonah, but eventually, knowing that Jonah serves God, and that Jonah has given them instructions to throw him overboard, they do so. Jonah's probably expecting at this point that he's can just end it all and nobody has to go to Nineveh, but God has other plans. Sends the fish, and eventually, after 3 days in the fish or the whale, Jonah prays to God in language that's very familiar to him. Ends up back on the seashore and is again told, go to Nineveh. So here is the book of Jonah, chapter 3, as Jonah goes to Nineveh. The word of the Lord came to Jonah a second time, saying, Get up, go to Nineveh, that great city, and proclaim to it the message that I tell you. So Jonah set out and went to Nineveh, according to the word of the Lord. Now Nineveh was an exceedingly large city, a 3 days' walk across. Jonah began to go into the city, going a day's walk. And he cried out, 40 days more, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. And the people of Nineveh believed God. They proclaimed a fast, and everyone, great and small, put on sackcloth. When the news reached the king of Nineveh, he rose from the throne, removed his robe, covered himself with sackcloth and ashes. Then he had a proclamation made in Nineveh, by the declaration of the king and his nobles, no human being or animal, no herd or flock shall taste anything. They shall not feed, nor shall they drink water. Human beings and animals shall be covered with sackcloth, and they shall cry mightily to God. All shall turn from their evil ways, and from the violence that is in their hands. Who knows? God may relent and change his mind. He may turn from his fierce anger, so that we do not perish. When God saw what they did, how they turned from their evil ways, God changed his mind about the calamity that he said he would bring upon them. And God did not do it. So Jonah finally goes. And again, if there's many lessons in the book of Jonah, one of them is that God will outweigh you. That if God had said this is where you are going to go, that God's way will be done, often in spite of us. And so Jonah goes to Nineveh. And at least in my imagination, I don't see Jonah being real excited about this. Again, there's a reason he didn't want to go to Nineveh. Nineveh is the capital of the empire that has conquered Israel. They are, in Jonah's mind, his enemies. And so I can see him, going in and just, all right, in 40 days, Nineveh will be overthrown. Not doing what you expect, like the sidewalk preacher to do, and, get on the soapbox and call everybody's attention and gather crowds to him. But I could almost see him doing just the opposite. But I also wonder if maybe that's exactly what needs to happen sometimes, because I really wonder how effective the soapbox preacher method is. Because most people just kind of roll their eyes and go on. But here's something different, and maybe it starts a whisper campaign among the crowd of, hey, what is this about the city being overthrown in 40 days? And so the message carries, and it carries like wildfire. And it eventually gets to the king, and there is, again, within Nineveh, they react like the people of Israel were supposed to react when the prophets came to them and told them that God was going to bring judgment on them. They all turn, and the way in which the story is narrated, not only the people, but the animals. Not only are the people to fast, but the animals are to be kept from eating. So, imagine all the people going out to the sheep and the pigs and the cattle and, trying to keep them from eating hay and things like that, putting not only sackcloth and ashes upon themselves, but putting sackcloth upon the animals and securing it to them as a sign of penitence. And it's this complete and total act of looking for a change, of looking for, one, trusting that God will do what God has said, but then also trying to do something to intervene so that God will change God's mind, and God does. God, who God is a God who is a God of steadfast love and slow to anger, and we experience that here for the people of Nineveh, that God wants to relent from punishing. God wants to permit them to go about their way, to continue to go about their life. But again, Jonah, as we'll see in the next chapter, isn't happy about this, because Jonah knows this is what God is like. And Jonah doesn't want God to be that way. Jonah wants God to be a God of judgment. But just as God has not given up on the people of Nineveh, God doesn't give up on Jonah. And God doesn't give up on us. And so, thank you for watching as we've gone through chapter 3. I'll be back with chapter 4 next week. Thanks for joining.